Thanks very much. Thanks. Welcome. Thanks all for coming and skipping out on the pre-game show, I think is probably what's on right now. Appreciate that. I am a highly sought-after public speaker, having published many books. And those books all help my readers, and my speeches all help my listeners to uncover the good and the love and the joy that they buried deep inside themselves long ago. And they've forgotten that they had. Now, many of you may not know that about me. The reason you don't know it is I'm still in the process of manifesting it. And I'm manifesting it using the power and the principle of mind action, which is what I'm here to talk to you all about today. The principle of mind action is one that we talk about quite a bit here. Thoughts held in mind produce after their own kind. We've heard that, we've said that. The important piece of that lesson, though, of that message, though, is which mind, what part of your mind are you listening to? Because you've got to hold those in the right place, and the ideas have to come from the right place. Imelda Shanklin, one of our Unity authors, writes in a book, What Are You?, that there are three fields of mind. There's only one mind, but there's three fields, three pieces, if you will. The first is the conscious mind, and that's the one that most of us spend 99% of our time in. It's the one that we use to make relationships, to work with other people, to get through our day-to-day job. But that conscious mind is fed from two other fields. The first is the subconscious mind. And that's the mind that houses all of our memories, houses people's perceptions of us. It's where our ego lies. It's the one that is most closely tied into our five senses. And it's a fairly easy one to listen to get your ideas and your information from. But the third field, the other one that conscious listens to, is the superconscious. And that's the one that we really need to be paying attention to. I'm a huge comic book fan. So when I think of the superconscious mind, I think of the bat phone. It's the bat phone right to spirit. And when it glows red, you have to pick it up. So you really need to understand kind of those three areas, those three fields of mind, to know that when you're talking about mind action, you're talking about the superconscious mind and the ideas that come from that into your conscious mind. The Bible is full of references to mind action. And really, when you think about the story of creation, it is one huge metaphysical interpretation of mind action. But there is one spot in it that I think is really telling, and it's in Genesis. It's chapter 2, verse 19. This Bible, by the way, is the one that was given to me when I was bar mitzvahed. And so right now there's a rabbi in Smithtown, New York going, that's a church. Verse 19 says, And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. So I'm going to pause there. Spirits created all of this, right? The birds, the fowl, all the creatures of the land, but they haven't been named. Because naming something is what gives it power. So Spirit has gone and created all of this, manifested this, but the final step, Spirit comes to man and gives man the opportunity to name the things. This is the first place in the Bible where we see an example of a spiritual being having a human experience, a person, demonstrating the power of mind action. The verse goes on, And the man gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. They didn't truly exist until they'd been named. So here's Adam, and Spirit says, what's this thing flying in the air? And Adam says, it's a loon. And this thing swimming in the water, what's that? It's a walleye. Let's face it, Adam knew a good thing. What about this thing slithering on the ground? I don't really want to name that. But yet we have to. And so Adam names it serpent. And there's a whole other lesson about how the things that we have to deal with, the troubles and the problems in our lives, we've manifested those as well. And maybe I'll get a chance to come back and talk to you about that at some point in the future. So Genesis is full of references to mind action. But the Unity publications are as well. This is a book called Christian Healing. It's by Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. And in it he says, the physical scientist deals with the electron or molecule or cell in his analysis of forms. He postulates that atoms exist, but he has never seen one. He assumes that the realm beyond the ken of physical perception is not possible of investigation. So here's the physicist saying, if I can't see it, I can't prove it. But he goes on to say, the metaphysician, however, delves into the realm where atoms and molecules and cells are formed. And he not only sees how they are made, but he acquires the ability to make them. He finds that they are all dependent on ideas, and that by using right ideas, he can make manifest any form or shape that he may desire. So Charles understands it and wrote about it, not just in that book, but in lots of others as well. And what we've been seeing in the last couple of years is really exciting. Science is catching up. In quantum mechanics, there is a theory called the quantum energy vortex. And what it essentially says is that if there is a molecule that normally would decay, and you look at it and you study it, you'll stop it from decaying. So we picture this molecule that normally is on this path of going back to source. And the scientist goes, okay, where is it right now? And they study it and they write it down. And they say, is it still there? Yep, still there, hasn't changed. How about now? Still there? Yes. And by the fact that they've put their mind against this and they've taken action to study it, they've stopped it. I think this explains a lot why some of the things in our lives don't go away. You have something in your life that you don't like. You have a job you don't like. You don't have a job and you want to have a job. You're busy. You're not busy. You're in a relationship. You're not in a relationship. You state that, and then you go and say, see, I'm still not in a relationship. See, this job still stinks. Does it stink now? Yep. How about now? It still stinks. By putting that attention, that mind action, works both ways, we've stopped it. So not only do we have it in our publications and things like that, but science is catching up. So you might say, well, Jeff, if it's principle and it's always working, why study it? Imelda Shanklin, again, in that book that I mentioned earlier, What Are You? She talks a lot about mind action, too. I won't give you her definition of it, but she does say this, and I think it's really critical. She says, but of this one thing be assured, intentionally or unintentionally on your part, your thoughts are changing your affairs, your body, and your relationships to the world. So given that this is happening, intentionally or unintentionally, I choose to be intentional about it. And so it's important to go and study these things and understand how they work, because it's going to happen anyway. So you might as well think about it and figure out how to use it. There's at least 3 different ways or 3 different situations that we can use, or applications of this that we can use in our lives. And as they say in California, there's an app for that. The first app that you have when wanting to use mind action, I call the situational app. It's the app that you open up when you have something in your life that you want to change, a relationship with an individual, or a particular situation, right? The boss that you don't get along with, the spouse that you don't get along with, the children that are struggling and you want to build your relationship with, whatever it might be. You'll notice that typically when you go into these situations or these relationships, that the discussion, the interchange, the interaction that you have goes exactly the way you expected it to go. I don't get along with my boss. This discussion is going to be really hard. He's going to rip me apart. Guess what happens? He rips you apart. Or my spouse doesn't understand what I'm trying to do, right? He or she is not going to get what I'm about to explain. And guess what happens? They don't get it. So you can use the power of mind action to reframe those relationships, those situations. Imagine it going the way that you intend for it to go. Come at the situation from a point of love, of understanding, of joy, and bring that to the interactions, to the situation. And by virtue of starting from that, you will start to change those interactions and those situations with people. And if you continue that, you're going to change not only your interactions and situations, but everybody around them. So it really starts to kind of bubble out. So that's the first app, the situation app. The second app I refer to as the want or the need app. This is probably the one that most of us use. It's the one that for me goes like this. I want a mint condition, black, 1977 Smoking the Bandit Trans Am. It's want-based, and it's usually fairly specific. And there is nothing wrong with using this principle to manifest those tangible things in your life that you really want. You do have to be a little careful, though, because by being overly specific, yes, you'll get that. But what if Spirit's standing on the side going, I really had this cherry red 57 Thunderbird with the white porthole tops for you. But since you wanted the Trans Am, okay, you can have that. Not it's bad, but Spirit had something bigger in mind. And so when you think about those wants and your needs, it's important to understand what you want, but it's also important to let Spirit co-create that with you. So rather than being specific about the Trans Am with the T-tops and the big bird on the hood, right? Think about having the right and perfect car or the right and perfect relationship. Think about kind of opening that up. Now, the trick is you open it up and that car shows up or that relationship shows up and you might go, well, that's not what I was thinking I really needed. So you have to be able to recognize it when it shows. So that's the second app. Again, and that one's about kind of your wants and your needs. The third app, and the one that I think is the most powerful, is the Vision app. And this is really the one that I've tapped into to kind of get me here. This Vision app has allowed me to lose quite a bit of weight. Many of you have commented on that in the past. It's allowed me to manifest a new job for myself, which I just started last week. It's allowed me to start up in the process of starting up a new company that's going to allow me to kind of drive this vision that I mentioned to you all earlier today. But it starts with a vision. And according to David Owen Ritz in Keys to the Kingdom, there's 5 key areas of a vision. So when you're thinking about using this app, you need these 5 things. You need to understand your vision from a spiritual perspective. What is it you want? How do you want to grow spiritually? Health, prosperity, money, your job, and then your relationships with people. And when you get all 5 of those things going, and by going I mean tangible, you can feel it, you can understand it. I have a very good friend who talks about putting ideas on as though they were a coat and wearing them around for a while. That's where you want to get your vision to. You want to get it to the point where it is so real that when you stop thinking about it, you think, I was just there. I was on the stage. I was talking to all of these people about the things that I'm passionate about and I believe in. And getting that vision cemented is really what's going to help to propel you forward. Now, the vision one is also somewhat limited. We talked about the car being limited. The vision is also limited because remember, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so our perception of what is possible is somewhat limited because we're having that experience. Imagine, though, that you were in a cave with a candle, a huge cave. And you light that candle, and you can see 10 or 15, maybe 20 feet around you. But the cave is much bigger than that. But as a human being, you go, well, it's only going to go that far. I'll set my vision right where it starts to get dark. I can kind of make things out, but I don't really understand what's there yet. But that's where I'm going to go. And you take your first step. Remember, this is mind action. So you take your first step. And what happens? The candle moves with you. You start to see more of the cave that you're in. And so as you've created that vision, as you start to move confidently towards it, you start to change the vision because now you see more of what's happening. So even though it is somewhat limited when you set your vision, it changes as you move towards it. It gets bigger. There's a song by an artist named Enya. The song is called Anywhere Is, and I love the lyrics in it. The lyrics go, I walk to the horizon, and there I find another. It all seems so surprising, and then I find that I know. So as you're moving confidently towards that vision, you'll find other things to do along the way. So that's the third app, right? We have the relationship app, the situational app. We have the wants and the needs app. And then we have the vision app. And hopefully that's resonated with a number of you. And so then the next question is, okay, that's great. I love the app. I'm going to download it. And I know when to use it. But Jeff, you haven't told me how to use it yet. So let's talk about that. When I lost the weight that I lost, a number of my friends came up to me and said, Jeff, it's great. You look fantastic. How did you do it? I said, well, Actually, it was pretty easy for me. I ate less. I ate better. And, wait for it, I exercised. And all the people talking to me said, well, that's great. We wanted the pill. And so just like in my experience of losing the weight, what you have to do is easy, but actually doing it, that's the hard part. And it's the same thing with putting mind action into place. What you have to do is easy, but actually sitting down and doing it is hard. So what do you have to do? The first thing you have to do is you have to get still. We've talked about prayer and meditation here all the time. That's the first step. You have to find the time to be still. And once you're still, you have to listen. And you have to listen with the ears of your heart. But remember what you're listening for. We talked earlier about those fields of mind. You're listening for the superconscious field. You're listening for spirit. And you'll know what it is when you hear it. I tell you this, though. It doesn't sound like your parents. It doesn't sound like your family. And it doesn't sound like your boss or any of the other relationships you have. It is a unique sound that you will know when you hear it. And once you've heard it, pay really close attention. You'll have to do this multiple times. You won't sit down and meditate and listen for 15, 20 minutes and wake up and go, Eureka, I know what I'm supposed to do. It would be great if it worked that way, but it doesn't. It takes time, at least not in my experience. Once you've got it, you need to write it down. And you can write it down however you want. You can journal it. You can type it into your computer. You can do a vision board. It doesn't really matter, but it has to be something you can go and work with and deal with. This is a part that I sometimes struggle with. I'm really good about keeping it in my head. But it becomes so much more powerful when you can write it down and go back and reflect on it on a daily, weekly, monthly basis and kind of see how you're doing against it. And all that's great, right? So we've meditated. We've heard the voice. We've written it down. There's another step. And it's probably the hardest one. It's the action step. You actually have to do something. I know, right? Darn. Who thought that was coming? It's not enough to come up with these visions and these ideas and put it out there to say, Spirit, I'm going to co-create this with you. I'm going to go sit down on the couch and eat bonbons now. It doesn't work that way. You have to move your feet. For me, that means setting up a new company. That means writing on a regular basis. That means talking to people, getting out in front of people, explaining what it is I'm doing and why I'm passionate about doing it. That's my action. Somebody else's action may be very, very different. In fact, it may not even look like action. It may look like sitting down at a keyboard and being quiet and thinking. Or it may look like poring over textbooks and being quiet and thinking. But don't mistake it. It's still action. You have to move your feet to get the principle of mind action to work for you. And it's just that easy. So we've covered what mind action is. We've covered kind of why it's important to use it, right? It's going to be active anyway. You may as well be intentional about it. We've covered the 3 apps, the situational app, the wants and needs app, and the vision app. And then we've talked a little bit about how to go ahead and bring that into manifest. So really, that's pretty much it. What I would like to leave you with, though, is another lyric. I love music. In fact, this is from a group that many of you have heard me talk about before. It's a group called Cloud Cult. They're a local band. And I find myself getting into a very meditative state when I listen to their music. This is a quote from a song of theirs called "You're the Only Thing in Your Way." And I felt like it was really appropriate to wrap this up with. The lyric goes this way. You are the wind, the flood, and the flame. Nothing here can stand in your way. You've come too far to care what they say. Now you're the only thing in your way. I love you, I bless you, and I'm so happy that all of you were able to come out and share this moment with me today. Thank you.